This is my favorite video of the week because we are talking trades. Everyone likes to make a trade. Everyone likes to rip off their friend, get the better deal, get the better player. It's fun. It's what makes fantasy football fun. Well, in this video, we have 7 players who you need to be trading for now before they go crazy in fantasy football this year. Get these guys on your roster. They might have had a good week 1. They may have had a bad week 1. It doesn't matter. Get them on your team before it's going to be impossible to do so. And let's start off with our first guy, Tedairoa McMillan, rookie receiver for the Panthers, who had a pretty strong debut in the NFL. 5 receptions, 68 yards on 9 targets, 11.8 fantasy points. Obviously, you would like that to be higher, but not bad for a rookie in his first NFL game. And his usage was very encouraging. 88% of the routes, 27% target share. He's far and away Carolina's best receiver, alpha wide receiver 1. This dude is the real deal. If you watch the tape, if you watch the film, he was worthy of the 8th overall pick. And there's really no reason why he shouldn't be seeing 10 plus targets in every single game from here on out. The only concerning part, the obvious part that is a little worrisome, is Bryce Young, who at the end of last year we talked about he was looking really good, and then his first game was not good. It was the bad Bryce Young that we saw. So a little bit worried about that, but that is why you'll be able to trade for McMillan, because someone could be spooked by Bryce Young. Maybe they just don't want to deal with bad quarterback play. I think Young is going to be fine. I think there were a couple factors in that game that didn't help. They were missing their left tackle, stud left tackle in this one. And some of it, like Bryce Young will just get better on. It was the first game. Maybe there were some jitters. Who knows? I do think Young is a good quarterback in a good system. And even if he's not amazing, we just need him to be average. Look at Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. They survived on average quarterback play last year. Volume is king at the end of the day, and we pair volume with a really talented player that is Tet, that is T-Mac. We like that. I get excited about it. We like that for fantasy. I think McMillan is a locked and loaded top 15 fantasy receiver for the rest of the season. So if you can get him for relatively cheap right now, I would be doing so. If someone is worried, like I said, about Bryce Young's performance, doesn't think it's going to get better, I don't really care about Bryce Young. As long as Bryce Young isn't horrible, I think T-Mac is going to have a really strong rookie year. Moving on to our next guy, Breece Hall. I went back and forth on Breece Hall all summer. At the beginning of the summer, I was all in on Breece. I loved Breece. I was like, he's the best running back on this roster. It's going to be a run-heavy offense. Like, we got to go back to the well. And then as the summer progressed, the more I saw this Jets offense, the more we saw Braylon Allen and Davis getting carries and all about this running back committee. I was like, maybe I'm out on Hall. And now I'm kicking myself because, ladies and gentlemen, Breece is back and he looks like vintage 2022 Breece. I think last year at this point, Hall was dealing with some sort of injury all year long because it appears he has that juice back that was missing all of 2024. In week 1, really nice day, 19 carries, 107 yards. He had 2 receptions for 38 yards, 5.6 yards per carry, 16.5 fantasy points. And yeah, the numbers don't blow you away, but he passed the eye test, something he did not do last year. He looked different. He looked explosive. He looked much better. And he went over 100 rushing yards. Guess how many times he went over 100 rushing yards last year? 1. He's already done it through 1 week. He outcarried, he outsnapped Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis. So much for that running back by committee. Like, we need to open our eyes. Like, this is my fault. Breece Hall is far and away the most talented running back on this roster. We bought into the Braylon Allen hype, who's nothing more than a plotter running back. He's a nice insurance back, but he's never going to take over Breece Hall. And Hall saw 51% of the rush attempts on Sunday. He had plenty of room to run. I think a lot of that is because this offensive line is better, and Justin Fields being at quarterback, having that rushing threat that Fields has, it creates lanes. It opens up lanes because the defense is also worried about Fields running. So while this isn't necessarily a buy low situation, I wouldn't overspend to get Breece either, but go inquire in your league how much would you have to pay to get Hall. Maybe someone thinks this is a fluke. If they do, I want Breece on my team for the rest of the year. He's in for a big season. Moving on to our next guy, Ricky Pearsall, Slick Rick. Took advantage of George Kittle exiting the game early, unfortunately, with that hamstring injury. We know Kittle is on the IR, going to miss the next 4 games at least. And Pearsall came through, 4 receptions, 108 yards on 7 targets, 14.8 fantasy points. He's going to be a weapon, you guys, for San Francisco all year long. They love this kid. They don't seem like they love Jauan Jennings. Jennings has that shoulder injury. It sounds like he's going to be okay, but they love Pearsall. Pearsall is also more talented than Jauan Jennings at this point, and this Kyle Shanahan scheme, this system is perfect for him. They moved Pearsall all over the formation in week 1. And in 4 games that Pearsall has started and played at least 60% of the snaps, he's averaged 19.9 PPR points. This is a really talented player, an uber athletic player, a really strong route runner. He's an explosive guy. Like, he didn't show it a lot of last year because he was coming off that injury. He got hot to close out the season. This is someone we raved about all offseason, and I even said it would not shock me if he led this wide receiver room in total fantasy points. And now with George Kittle out for a while, what we just mentioned, and Brock Purdy dealing with a foot and shoulder injury, this is a perfect buy time because it doesn't sound like Purdy's going to be out that long, but he might miss this week. So if someone is spooked about Purdy, get Pearsall on your team for cheap, because even when Jauan Jennings is out there, even when George Kittle is out there, I think Ricky is going to be a huge part of the San Francisco 49ers offense moving forward. I really like what I saw from week 1, and I think it only gets better. Moving on to our next guy, R.J. Harvey, who had a solid rookie debut, all things considered, for Denver, who decided not to give him many opportunities in week 1, but that doesn't entirely shock me. That just seems like something Sean Payton would do. Like, he's got to earn his keep, whatever. We know Harvey's the best player in this running back room by a mile, but yeah, week 1, 31% snap share, 23% of the rush attempts, wasn't utilized in the passing game because Tyler Batty was the guy in that role for some reason. J.K. Dobbins was fine, 16 carries, 63 yards, touchdown, 3.9 yards per carry. Doesn't really blow you away. We know Harvey did show some juice, even though he only saw 22 total snaps. It didn't matter. 6 carries, 70 yards, featured on that 52-yard scamper, which was fun to watch. He showed that explosiveness that we saw in college, that elusiveness, 11.7 yards per carry, again, inflated by that one big run, but still, this is a really fun running back that's going to be a huge staple of this Broncos offense sooner rather than later. Don't be blinded by J.K. Dobbins. Please, it's not going to last. And even if Dobbins doesn't go away, Harvey's role is just going to continue to grow. It might not matter. He was RB4 in yards after contact in week 1 on only 6 rushes. He's really hard to bring down. He, again, is the most explosive running back on this roster. Sean Payton loves him. He's going to get a shot to have a bigger role in this offense. I promise you that. I'd be acquiring Harvey right now before he has that monster game. All right, next man up, Deebo Samuel, another guy, come on, that we talked about all summer, that we liked more than consensus. He was a must-draft guy for us, and we talked about it. He's the perfect fit for this Cliff Kingsbury offense, and they proved us right in week 1. Like 7 receptions, 77 yards on 10 targets, along with that 19-yard rushing score, 22.6 fantasy points. He led the Commanders with a 34% target share. Deebo was moved all around the formation. He saw 75% of the snaps from the slot, which is the cheat code for everyone involved. You put Deebo in the slot, like, it's over. This Commanders offense is built around getting the ball out of their hands quickly and winning after the catch, which is exactly what Deebo Samuel does. He's hard to bring down. Even at the age of 29, 30, he's still explosive. He's a huge mismatch in this system. Yeah, Terry McLaurin, you could argue, is working his way back into the offense after holding out all summer, but McLaurin has never been a high target earner type of guy. I think Deebo is going to be Jaden Daniels' security blanket, the guy that he checks it down to or dumps it off to in the slot. Like, that's what we want for fantasy. That's what we want for PPR. I think Samuel is going to be the high volume guy in a really good offense, which that's going to result in a lot of fantasy points, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of receptions. Yeah, I think Deebo, we talked about it again this offseason. I think Samuel outscores Terry in fantasy points per game this year, and I don't think it's very close. So yeah, I'd be trying to acquire Deebo right now. It's only been week 1. Maybe people aren't bought in. Before it's too late, get him on your roster. On to our next guy, Bucky Irving, who's looking like the workhorse back for Tampa Bay on a really good offense, as he saw 18 of the 22 running back touches on Sunday, 81% opportunity share, 77% snap share, and most notably, he ate into Rachaad White's pass down work. People were curious what that was going to look like under new offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard. Well, Irving won that role. White is getting phased out, unfortunately for him, but as a Bucky owner, that is great news. And Irving saw a 57% route participation compared to White's 22%. That's massive for a player who averaged 20.6 points per game in games last year where he saw 50% or more of the snap. So Tampa Bay is like, yeah, Irving is our best running back. We're going to make him the workhorse. And even though he didn't come through for you in a big way on Sunday, 14 carries, 37 yards, 2.6 yards per carry, he did still find the end zone on that reception. We know the talent that Bucky has, so we're not worried about that. So if you pair a really talented player on a really good offense with a ton of volume, yeah, good things are going to happen, and they're going to get their best offensive lineman back soon. Like if the Irving owner, doesn't zoom in on what really happened on Sunday and is worried after this performance, yeah, I would be sending out 1 million trade offers to get Irving on your team right now. On to our last guy, Jackson Smith Najigba. I don't want to say it again. This is getting old, but I told you to draft JSN all summer. People were worried about Cooper Kupp, who's going to be in the slot. I told you JSN can win on the outside. He did it at OSU. Like, he's not a slot-only guy. He's not a slot merchant. He's a much more than that. And Seattle agreed, and he balled out in week 1. 59% target share. Obviously, that's not sustainable, but that's crazy. 90% of Seattle's air yards, 83% of the team's receiving yards. What? And that resulted in 9 receptions, 124 yards on 13 targets, 19.4 fantasy points. And he did all of that, had all of that production in a game where Darnold only completed 16 passes for 150 yards. Imagine if they get into shootouts in the future. What kind of stat line is JSN going to put up then? We know they lost the game against the 49ers because Seattle was very committed to the run. Didn't really work out for them. That's probably going to change going forward. If they need to throw the ball, they're going to throw it to JSN, who is looking like an alpha wide receiver 1, not only in fantasy, but in the NFL. He has a very good shot to finish as a top 3 receiver in fantasy this year. That's how good he is. That's how good this new system in Seattle is with new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, who's a magician, who knows how to use his receivers. And like we said, he used JSN in that downfield role. And yes, JSN did run some routes from the slot. He had some design screens. He was running from the outside. He was all over the field. This Seattle passing attack runs through JSN moving forward, and I'm really excited about him. I think you're probably going to have to pay up to get him after a performance like he just had in week 1. Might be difficult, but it's worth trying. And if he's already on your roster, congrats for being aggressive, getting him on your team, because he is looking like a league winner. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you could please like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below. I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.